Yo, and what is up, gang? Thank you for checking out Sledgehammer TV tonight. SmackDown follows up the Elimination Chamber by setting up their WrestleMania matches, and they did so in a very good way. Bianca BelAir has made her intentions known, and Daniel Bryan is trying to get himself a fair shot at the Universal Champion after Roman Reigns took the cheap way out. How did it all pan out for the world's favorite yes man? Stick around and find out. We are going to talk about all of that and so much more right here and right now. My name is Nick Nightmare. You are watching the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show's Smackdown review and reaction show. Let's do it.
The Sledgehammer Wrestling Show.
Well, tonight's episode of SmackDown did feature a couple of poop hammer segments. There is no doubt in my mind that SmackDown is the superior A show of the WWE. Their 2 hours is way easier digestible than the 3-hour plate of trash known as Monday Night Raw that they shove down our throats every Monday night. Let's talk about tonight's show. I'm so excited about what SmackDown is bringing to WrestleMania, and we're going to get into all of that in just a second. But let's talk about the elephant in the room. I know you're sitting there thinking to yourself, what the fuck are you wearing your mask for? Right now, this is not a social commentary. This is not a political agenda statement. I'm not trying to deliver a message by wearing my mask here live on the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show. No, it's none of those things. And it is not a cheap plug, although it could be. If you like the mask and you want to get one for yourself, they are still available at teespring.com/stores/SledgehammerTV. And now, honestly, while that is not my intention, let me be straight with you guys as I always am. You see, I have this gigantic, huge boil growing on the side of my face. I've named him Reginald because he's about as annoying as Reginald is on Monday Night Raw. But the thing is, he's disgusting, this Reginald. Not Reginald on SmackDown. This one here. He's disgusting, he's distracting, and I don't want to subject you guys to the grossness that is going on my face. So until this thing fucking decides to go away for the foreseeable future, we're probably going to be wearing this mask, as uncomfortable as it is, and as many times as it's going to fall up and down my nose, and I'm going to be doing all of this. You're all very familiar with how this works, as everybody's been walking around in masks for the last year. Hopefully, we don't have to wear them much longer with things that are going on in the world, but wishes are for fishes, as they say, and you can keep wishing as hard as you can. Until then, you gotta wear your masks outside. You don't have to wear your masks when you're doing a wrestling podcast, except when you have a tremendous, ugly, distracting facial deformity that you could name Reginald. Now that that's said and done, let's talk a little bit about what happened on tonight's SmackDown. Let me move my notes into a better position so I can see what's going on here. And the fact of the matter is, SmackDown is setting up a superior WrestleMania card. Look at what we got potentially coming out of tonight's SmackDown. We have Roman versus Edge, which has already been set, right? And you have the possibility of Daniel Bryan being added to WrestleMania at this point and having it be a triple threat. Daniel Bryan versus Edge versus Roman Reigns. I'm all for that. Even Edge versus Roman Reigns stands alone as a one-on-one match, as a very intriguing scenario for a WrestleMania main event for the Universal Championship. We also have, tonight, Bianca BelAir telling the world that the EST wants to be the best. And to be the best, you have to beat the best, and the current best is the boss, Sasha Banks. So now we have the women's title, Sasha Banks versus Bianca BelAir on the SmackDown side of WrestleMania. Fantastic. Look at the mid-card title securely strapped around the waist of Big E. He is going up against the new and improved Nigerian royalty, the Nigerian prince Apollo Crews, who's in the middle of what I would say is maybe a career resurgence. This guy and this gimmick that he's got right now is fantastic. He's entertaining. It feels special. He's not just another schmuck in the catering crowd that's just coming out and doing matches and that don't mean anything. Sure, he's lost to Big E a couple of times, and they maybe could have done this a little bit better, but this feels like a fresh restart for Apollo Crews, and I love the potential for that match. Then SmackDown's seemingly, after tonight, setting us up for Seth Rollins versus Cesaro. Another high-quality singles match. Seth Rollins, when he's wrestling, I don't mind him. You guys are probably thinking, oh, Nick's going to shit all over this. But let me tell you something. As long as Seth Rollins isn't speaking, I'm okay with it. Seth Rollins in the ring has proven time and time again he can put on a good match. And he's got one of the best opponents you could ever have. Cesaro, the most underrated professional wrestler on the WWE's roster. I would have totally been into Cesaro Mania if they wanted to push him towards a match with Roman. Is that feasible? Probably not. Is it going to happen? Definitely not. We all know what's going on, but a Cesaro versus Seth Rollins singles match feels like a WrestleMania type of match. As long as they don't ruin the build going from here. And I don't need to just hear Seth Rollins week after week just, I'm Dick Rollins and nobody believes in me and you gotta follow me and I don't care. Him in his ridiculous jackets, I don't need to hear him speaking. But when he gets between the ropes and he's in there with a quality opponent, it sometimes can be magical. And that is what we have set up so far for SmackDown. What are we getting on the Red Show? What are we setting up for on the Trash Show? On the D Show of the WWE, if you will? Well, right now we got the Miz as champ, so already they're in the negative. They're already inferior to SmackDown because their champion is more like a champion, right? And then we have the possibility Monday, Bobby Lashley is going to save us from all this. Maybe Bobby Lashley will be the champ. We may have Drew versus Lashley. A lot of people in the community, including myself, last week were very hopeful that maybe we will get Bobby Lashley versus Brock Lesnar versus Drew McIntyre. We can't have triple threats everywhere, right? But here, it would be a great way to have Lesnar come in, put over Bobby as the new beast, the new next big thing or whatever, and really put the company on the shoulders of Bobby Lashley. I love the potential. I love the character development that he's gone through with the Hurt Business, and that's good. But we still got to get the belt off the Miz to get there. And there's a high possibility that the Miz makes it all the way to WrestleMania as the champion and has something to do with the main event for Raw's WWE title. And that already makes it less than SmackDown. The mid-card title is on Matt Riddle. And who are we going to put Matt Riddle against? Do you care? Matt Riddle is a clown right now. Matt Riddle is a pothead stoner guy giving lame dad jokes and stupid comedy. And then they gave him the United States Championship because they wanted to move Bobby Lashley on to bigger and better things. Who's stepping up versus Matt Riddle? Do you care? I don't. Who's on Raw? I don't even know. Who could go against Matt Riddle at WrestleMania? Who cares? It's a dead match for me, the United States Championship. Just as dead as the women's title. What's going on over there? Asuka's the champion. She's been shit on since she was given that title by Becky Lynch. She's had the belt for almost an entire year. They did nothing with her. They were just waiting for Charlotte to come back. And right now, the only possibility is Charlotte versus Asuka at WrestleMania. This could be good if they involve Rhea Ripley. But again, you can't have every match be a triple threat. As much as Ripley versus Flair versus Asuka might be intriguing to you, you can't really do every match as a triple threat, as we've been talking about right here. So I'm thinking Asuka maybe don't even make it to Mania. Maybe Charlotte fights Asuka at Fastlane. Charlotte wins the title. Doesn't matter at this point. Asuka's championship reign has been dead in the water and attached to the women's tag team championships, and it just has been awful. They've disrespected her and used her terribly over the course of the last year. So just take her out of the equation altogether. She doesn't need to lose again at WrestleMania to Charlotte Flair. But if you bring in Rhea Ripley before WrestleMania, and you have her challenge Charlotte Flair for the Raw Women's Championship, getting her win back from last year, maybe that could be interesting. But there's no sign of that happening. So easily, SmackDown wins the bracket for the Women's Championship match. And then Raw has 2 matches on deck. That none of these things have been announced, but you gotta assume that we're gonna get Braun Strowman versus Shane McMahon. Nobody wants to see that. I don't even think Braun and Shane want to see that match. And then you got Randy Orton in his inevitable climactic ending of the feud with The Fiend, who's been missing for months. And I have zero interest in anything else going on with that feud. So as you can see by the way we laid it out, SmackDown with only 4 matches is already a better WrestleMania card than the 6 possible matches we just put forth for Monday Night Raw. And it is no wonder why we enjoy SmackDown so much more. SmackDown kicked off tonight with Roman Reigns opening the show as usual, but Daniel Bryan was the one that stood out in this segment. He came out and called out Roman Reigns pretty much for being a puss. He's like, oh, you're such a great champion. You defended your title at the Elimination Chamber because you're a fighting champion. But you did it against the guy that already went through an Elimination Chamber. You didn't even wait till the end of the show. You would think that you have a vision of your own title being the main event. Wouldn't you want to be the last show on the card? But no, you took advantage of attacking a man who was already pretty much down. Even though he won in victory, his body must have felt like it was defeated. He did the best he could, but he got the short end of the stick as Roman Reigns and company continue to try to give Roman the advantage and keep the title in multiple heel ways that just make this whole thing feel like it's not over yet and feels very interesting. Daniel Bryan wants another shot at Roman Reigns' championship, and once again, main event Jey Uso jumps into the fray. He tells Daniel Bryan that he is not going to get to Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns already beat Daniel Bryan on Sunday, and then Jey Uso jumped Daniel Bryan, sent them to the floor, over the barricade, leaving us to a main event on SmackDown. Daniel Bryan, Jey Uso, one-on-one. If Daniel wins, he gets to face Roman Reigns at Fastlane and jump the line ahead of Edge, which would come into play later on in the show. Edge came to Sonya Deville in the back to talk to her about something. And then we had a backstage segment where Jey Uso was apologizing to his tribal chief cousin and just saying that he doesn't need him to worry because he is going to take care of Daniel Bryan on tonight's SmackDown. Edge once again talking to Adam Pearce and Sonya Deville, talking about how Pearce told him he would be tagging with Bryan against Reigns and Uso at Fastlane, but Bryan just wanted to challenge Reigns to the one-on-one matchup. Adam Pearce also said that the tag team was tentative and this title match fell in their lap, even though it was upsetting to Edge. He doesn't appreciate this form of disrespect, allowing Daniel Bryan to jump and get a championship matchup before his marquee match main event at WrestleMania. Then we had Otis and Chad Gable defeating Rey Mysterio and the giant baby son, Dominic. This was a very short match. It's getting a poop hammer. It's one of a couple of poop hammer segments on the night. And you're probably thinking, why? The match was fine, right? It was a decent match. But the fact of the matter is, when you look at what's going on here, they had Tucker turn on Otis. Tucker became a heel. Otis remained a babyface, and now he's turning heel to be part of a heel tag team with Chad Gable. If you wanted him to be in a tag team Why did you break up Heavy Machinery? Why didn't you just have both guys turn heel and send them on a different path? I don't understand the Otis, Chad Gable, Alpha Squad, whatever they're calling themselves. It just doesn't really make sense to me. I thought this was a team that was set to implode and blow it off at Mania. There is still enough time for that to be the case. But Otis is just a heel now, I guess. And Otis and Chad Gable beat Rey Mysterio and Dominic. Dominic Mysterio has been taking so many losses that it feels like he's just a glorified jobber at this point. Rey Mysterio is a legend in this business. And sure, he might not be able to go the way he did in 1997, but the man's got to have more value than this. He's been soaking up L's himself. What does it matter now if you beat Rey and Dominic? Everybody does. Is this special? No. This is Poop Hammer 101. Terrible shit. Apollo Crews had a very good match with Shinsuke Nakamura. I thought it could have went a little bit longer, is my only criticism, but I loved Apollo Crews' opening salvo. His opening promo was great. They talked about, also they made note that Big E was not at the show tonight. He's home healing from the vicious attack last week. Apollo Crews' promo was fantastic. He claims that he is not from the hood. He's not from the suburbs. He's actually from Nigeria. He comes from royalty. He has a royal family history. He brought a scarf along with him. He didn't get it from Chris Jericho or MJF or anything like that. It was, I guess, a royal scarf or something representative of his Nigerian culture. I loved it. I loved it. Crews was talking shit about beating up Big E last week. He told Big E to go back to catering this time, getting that jab back at Big E. He says he's gone back to his roots, and I was really getting into the promo, and then Shinsuke Nakamura made his way to the ring. He was jumped by Apollo Crews before the match. And then as we came back from the break, we had the match going on. Apollo Crews totally kicked Shinsuke's ass here. He had a few decent spots. Shinsuke looked good in this match. Apollo looked good in this match, but Apollo Crews would come out victorious. Grabbed onto his scarf, sent Nakamura into the turnbuckle. Using it, Crews then hit an angle slam for the win. I wonder if he's adopting that as his new finisher. I'd be fine with all that. Paul Heyman had to talk to Roman Reigns, tell him that it's official tonight. If Daniel Bryan wins, he gets a shot at Fastlane. Reigns wondered if that meant the tag team match was off. Heyman clarified the tag team match is only off if Daniel Bryan wins. So apparently, the tag team match, spoiler alert, is not off for now, because Daniel Bryan, at the end of this night, did not win. Let's go to Poop Hammer segment number 2 on the night. And you guys who watched the show, you knew this was coming, as we had Tamina Snuka, Natty's new best friend, who's been old, long-time friends, but not actually on screen. I'm sure it is true in a backstage capacity, but we haven't seen anything about this until the last couple of weeks. I feel like they just don't know what to do with the rest of these girls. The Riot Squad was on a roll. They were building them up. They were actually looking really good. We were seeing Liv Morgan in some pretty good matches. Ruby Riott always puts on a good match, but now for the last couple of weeks, we're seeing them being fed to Natalya and Tamina, and the only good thing about this was that Billie Kay didn't show up. Other than that, we had Tamina defeat Liv Morgan in a rather short match, and I don't understand what we're doing. Does the world need Natty and Tamina as a tag team? Do they, either one of them, even need to be on the active roster right now? Unless they're putting over the young talent, there's no reason for the old school to be doing this. The last couple of weeks have proven that the opposite is happening, and that Liv Morgan and Ruby Riott are being used to build up Natalya and Tamina, who are two already established women on the roster, with second or third generation bloodlines to their credit and don't need to be beating girls like Liv and Ruby. Liv and Ruby need to be beating them. But that doesn't seem to be the case right now. I don't understand the logic behind it. You don't need to make them look threatening. Are you building this up for a WrestleMania match? Are we going to see the Riot Squad versus whatever Tamina decides to call themselves? Tamina. That's it. Just N-A-T and Tamina. Natty and Tamina. Tamina. And is that good? Not to me. Nah. Gotcha with that one. All right, let's go past this poop hammer garbage because this was a moment on the night that was great. Bianca BelAir makes her decision. She chooses the boss, Sasha Banks. The back and forth between them were fantastic. What wasn't needed here was the appearance of the actual Reginald, not my Reginald. We didn't need the appearance of this Reginald to put this fucking stupid mask on my face. Nor did we need the appearance of WWE's Reginald to try to hype Bianca versus Sasha. He has nothing to do with them. Isn't that Carmella's boy? Why is he being involved here? Why is this guy getting so much TV time? It just makes no sense. He's worthless. He's worthless. We don't need this here. All we needed was Bianca and Sasha, and there were some really good things being said. Sasha just planting her flag, saying, listen, I know that you want to be the EST, but you can't be because I'm the best. I'm the boss. I'm the standard. I'm the flag bearer here. And then Bianca BelAir was like, girl, I'm the baddest, the smartest, the toughest, and every other EST word she could throw in there. And then she spelled it out for her. And I want to be the BEST. So she is going to take down the boss at WrestleMania. They had pyro go off. She did the obligatory point at the WrestleMania sign again. And we are off to the races. All I need them to do is get rid of Reginald. Not necessary. Not necessary. And these two women are definitely deserving of closing one of the two nights, night one at the very least, for WrestleMania. That's a main event. The boss versus the best. That has WrestleMania written all over it. To quote Gorilla Monsoon, that is WrestleMania personified, baby. It would be fantastic. Two beautiful women of color main eventing a WrestleMania. That is historic stuff, man. Never happened before. Might never be in the position again to do it. Why not do it? Why not? I'm all for it. I'm all for it. We got some more poop hammers flying, though. Let's not, as much fun as tonight's SmackDown was, let's not discount the fact that there are plenty of poop hammers to let fly here, and another has to come down for the tag team division, which is just fucking useless on both shows. You got the Dirty Dogs as the champs here. You got who even are the Hurt Business are the tag team champions on Raw. At this point, the best thing they could do, as we've been crying for years, that we want them to merge the titles, make it one division, run them across both brands. I think that would be a much better use of the tag team division. Instead, we're getting makeshift tag teams thrown together week in and week out just so that guys like the Street Profits have somebody to fight so that they could seem like they are worthy of another match against the Dirty Dogs. The Street Profits defeated King Corbin and Sami Zayn. Constable King Dickhead being involved in anything just completely takes me out of it, much like when we have Seth Rollins with a microphone. And the one thing that's really stood out to me was not the Dirty Dogs watching on the monitor in the back, having a few drinks out of some solo cups. It was not the fact that Sami Zayn decided that he and Corbin would be this great unified team. The worst thing about all this was Baron Corbin having a problem with the documentary crew. He didn't want to be filmed. Does he not realize that he's on SmackDown and that they're there to work and that he's on a show that is currently being filmed and shown worldwide? But he doesn't want to be filmed by Sami Zayn's crew. But you're alright being filmed by WWE cameras right now who are watching you beat up other camera guys because you don't want to be filmed. And this was WWE's way to give the Street Profits a win without, I guess, devaluing their beloved king. He was just pretty much walking away from the match. He started beating up Sami Zayn's little dudes. And do you care? I didn't care. He left Sami Zayn high and dry. And they lost to the Street Profits. Poop Hammer City. Kayla Braxton and her adorable freckled face interviewed Daniel Bryan in the back. Daniel Bryan had some pretty harsh words for the incumbent challenger Edge. I don't know if incumbent was the right word there, but whatever. We got Edge challenging Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. Daniel Bryan doesn't think Edge might be able to beat Roman Reigns, pointing out that he has been retired for a long time. He has a lot of respect for Edge, but he just doesn't think that Edge has a better shot than he does at beating Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. Edge came out of nowhere, and they made a little bit of a thing about the fact that if Daniel Bryan beats Roman Reigns prior to WrestleMania, that they'd end up facing off against each other. And being that Daniel Bryan thinks that Roman Reigns will beat Edge, Edge wanted to ask Daniel Bryan, well, who do you think would win if that happened? If it's you versus me, Daniel? And Daniel decided he was going to keep his opinion on that answer to himself. Probably a very wise decision, but that is hanging out there now. It's in the universe, and it's in the atmosphere, and it's hanging around, and Daniel Bryan very well might be part of this before it's all said and done. And with the way it ended tonight, he's got a lot of work to do to get himself there, because it's not going to be easy. Definitely not going to be easy. Seth Rollins! Seth Rollins came to the ring in another ridiculous jacket.
What's that jacket for? It's the worst.
It's the worst thing ever. It's that jacket for every week he comes out in some new jacket. This week he came out looking like he was auditioning for a role in Saturday Night Fever. This is Smackdown Night Fever. Night Fever, Night Fever. I'm Seth Rollins. John Travolta wannabe. What was that suit, man? I don't know who's dressing this guy. He thinks he's hip, he's chic, I guess, whatever. He's wearing these weird suits with his chest out, and it's just, it's off-putting, and it makes him look a little silly. But that's just my fashion sense. I mean, maybe you thought he looked great. Maybe you like that type of thing. I don't know. I just think he looks kind of silly in all these little get-ups and all his ridiculous coats. He went from that stupid furry coat to last week's little gold dust-inspired silver swirly suit. I don't know if it was Louis Vuitton or some shit that matters to some people. I don't even care. But tonight, he looked like John Travolta, and he went out there, and he didn't get dance moves. He got swung around and around and around by Cesaro. You see, Seth Rollins came out to do his Seth Rollins shtick, and Cesaro saved us from a much longer diatribe, I'm assuming, but he came out and interrupted Seth Rollins before he could really get going. Rollins was backing down from Cesaro. He was apologizing to Cesaro. He kept calling him a star. You're a star. You're going to be a star. You are a star. And then he said that when he called him a loser, he wasn't actually calling him a loser last week. He meant like loser in general, like everybody else. Like, these are all losers, but he wasn't calling it. It made no sense. You flat out called the guy a loser, and now you're just backtracking because he's here to kick your ass. Typical weasel heel thing to do. And then Cesaro decided to stop listening to Seth Rollins. He picked him up by his feet, swung him around for maybe a solid 2 minutes. This was really entertaining only because I loved how they executed this. Seth Rollins held on to the microphone for a majority of the swing. He finally let it go. Cesaro swinging him so hard that his stupid John Travolta jacket ended up flying right off his body with the momentum of the swing. And Seth Rollins took it like a champ, making Cesaro look like $1,000,000. I'm totally down for Cesaro versus Seth at WrestleMania. It will be a good match. It will be a great match if they let them have a great match, but at the very least, it'll be a good match, and it seems like they're building stories behind it. They got to tighten it up a little bit, because I don't want to just keep hearing Seth Rollins week after week telling Cesaro he's got to join him, and he could guide him, and he could be the daddy, or whatever it is he's been saying lately. But I'm alright with it. I'm alright with it. Just keep the microphone stuff to a minimum, please, especially in the hands of Seth Rollins. And then we had the main event. This was an excellent match. Once again, Jey Uso proving to be main event Jey Uso. Interesting side note, Jey Uso has not won a match in like his last 10 matches. I think his last 10 main events, or wherever he wrestled, Jey Uso has been losing for a long time. Tonight, we would have him, he wouldn't win, but he technically didn't lose either, because it wasn't about winning or losing. Jey Uso went out there to handle the problem for his cousin. And despite the fact that we had an excellent match here, before all was said and done, Jey Uso would flip out, attack Daniel Bryan, the match would spill out to the outside, and he would attack Daniel Bryan using the steel steps, crashing his leg into the steel steps. All of the action on the outside went to a 10 count, giving us a double count out, which I thought was kind of weak. Thought it was a little lame. It's a bullshit finish, and it just, it felt cheap. It felt like you built this up to a point where Daniel Bryan was going to get this title match, and I don't know, I just didn't like the finish. But it's not over. And you know it's not over because after the official made the call and ended the match with the double count out, Daniel Bryan fought back. He would end up getting beat down by Roman Reigns anyway. He had Jey Uso in the yes lock. After the match was over, Roman would jump in, saving his cousin. He would get the yes lock on Roman Reigns as well until Jey Uso returned the favor, saving Roman Reigns this time, only for Roman to get back to his feet, hit Daniel Bryan with a spear, and then choke him out with the guillotine submission as SmackDown goes off the air. And my initial thoughts right after the show was over was, man, SmackDown's doing a much better job at getting me interested in what's going to be happening at this year's WrestleMania. I wish, and almost, I really, really wish that Fastlane didn't exist, and that they could just continue to do these things week to week, making the Raws and SmackDowns feel special instead of having to book another unnecessary pay-per-view right in the middle of WrestleMania season. It's a little bit overkill, it's a little unnecessary, and taking it away would really allow them to flesh these stories out on weekly TV, making WrestleMania even more special. But they don't have the brain capacity to do that, so it's no wonder why they have to keep having like checkpoints to work towards. Well, we can't think so far about WrestleMania, so let's focus on this Fastlane stuff. That's definitely happening more on Monday Night Raw than on SmackDown. The better show of the week, as always, for multiple reasons, despite the fact that we had poop hammers to throw at this one as well. Thank you guys all so much for joining me here tonight on another episode of the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show SmackDown Review. Thank you for indulging me with my stupid mask on. If you got a kick out of it, hit that like button. If you agreed with anything we had to say, smash that like button. Hit that subscribe button. Continue to help Sledge Nation grow one member at a time, and all we need is you. If you're not already a subscriber to this channel, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell so that you don't miss anything as we continue to bring the hammer down on the road to WrestleMania, unlike anybody else. Who else is sitting in front of their fucking cameras, sweating balls, with a giant mask on their face, just so that we don't have to skip this review and spare you guys from my ridiculous Reginald Boyle. Right? Only I would do that. I'm doing that for you. So now, what you could do for me, share this video with anybody else you think might enjoy what we do here at Sledgehammer TV. And of course, like and subscribe. If you find yourself in a position to help the channel, maybe you got a little bit of extra cash, maybe you're getting back to work a little more, maybe you want to have a little extra added protection, maybe you got a little Reginald Boyle friend yourself, grab yourself a Sledgehammer Wrestling Show official mask, available now and until this pandemic is over at teespring.com/stores/Sledgehammer TV. That's going to do it for tonight. Thank you all so very much. My name is Nick Nightmare. This is the team, Thor the Sledgehammer, the official Sledgehammer of the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show. His tag team partner, the World Heavyweight Champion of all the microphones in all the world, Mr. Blue, the Snowball, the most important member of the team, as always, each and every one of you. That's going to do it. We are out of here. We will see you next time right here on your new favorite wrestling show, the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show. Only on Sledgehammer TV, right here on YouTube.com, the safest channel you could ever watch, because we're protected by the mask and the hammer. Good one, and we'll see you guys Monday. Ugh, unfortunately, for Monday Night Raw. Have a good night.